Hello everyone. Welcome to another interesting session of law with me, CA Preeti Agarwal. Let's learn law like never before. So, up till now, we have discussed what are the different modes of discharge. We are just left with one of the modes, that is impossibility of performance. I have covered this separately because it is extremely important for exam. Now, impossibility of performance is one of the modes of discharging a contract. The section number is section 56. It is important for exam. Section 56. You need to memorize this section number. Now, there are different modes of discharging the contract. One of them is impossibility, but questions are asked separately on impossibility of performance. So that is why we are covering it in a separate video, because many case based questions are asked, and it is also asked in combination with breach of contract. Now, impossibility means it is not possible to perform the contract. This impossibility may be either initial impossibility or supervening impossibility. Initial means it is not possible to perform the contract right from the beginning. So let's say, for example, that X entered into a contract with Y to kill Z. See, it is physically possible, but is it legally possible to kill Z? No, it is legally impossible. This is void ab initio. X tells Y, I will pay you 50,000 rupees, and Y promises to show him a dinosaur. This is impossible to perform. Foolish people, they are entering into such contracts. X promised to pay 1 lakh rupees to Y, and Y promised to put life in his dead wife. Is it physically possible? The contract becomes, it is not becomes, it is void right from the beginning. So initial impossibility means the contract is not capable of being performed right from the beginning. The agreement is void ab initio. Then what is the meaning of supervening impossibility? Supervening impossibility means the contract was valid when entered, but later on, due to certain impossibility, now the contract becomes void. Let me write this neatly for you in a proper chart. Let's draw a proper chart for it. So in your notebook, give the heading as impossibility of performance. Write along with me, impossibility of performance. Section 56. Impossibility may be either initial impossibility or supervening impossibility. Initial means it is initially, right from the beginning, it is impossible to perform the contract. The agreement is void ab initio. What were the examples we discussed? What were the examples? Killing. Okay. Do you want to write the proper example? Okay, let's write it. So X agreed to kill Z, and Y agreed to pay him 5 lakh rupees. X agreed to pay 50,000 rupees to Y, and Y agreed to show him a dinosaur. X agreed to pay 1 lakh rupees to Y. Y promises to put life in dead wife of X. Supervening impossibility means the impossibility which does not exist at the time of contract, but it arises subsequently. So contract is valid when entered, But later on, due to certain impossibility, it now cannot be performed, it becomes void. So it becomes void later. So contract is valid when entered. Okay, it is valid when entered. But later on, it becomes void due to certain impossibility. A promised to marry B. Okay, A promised to marry B. But before marriage, A died. Is it possible to perform this promise? The contract becomes void. Ma'am, this was the same example you had discussed in void agreement. Yes, this is the same example I discussed there. Now you know why it became void. It became void due to supervening impossibility. Okay, why did it become void? Due to supervening impossibility. Let's write one more example. A promised to export goods to B, but the government imposed a ban on export of those goods. Now, when we had entered the contract, it was valid. But due to ban, it is now impossible. Okay, it is impossible to perform the contract. The contract becomes void. Now we know why it became void, due to supervening impossibility. Okay, it became void due to supervening impossibility. So please note this in your notebook. Please make a note of it. Done. Okay. So impossibility means either initial impossibility or supervening impossibility. Initial impossibility means it is not possible to perform the contract right from the beginning. Supervening impossibility means the impossibility which arises after the formation of the contract. Okay. Now, what is the effect of initial impossibility? We know the contract is impossible right from the beginning. It means at the time of making the contract itself, it was void. Such agreements are void ab initio. Okay, they are void ab initio. Now, it is possible that the parties knew about the initial impossibility. Then why are they entering into contract when they knew about the impossibility? Foolish people. These agreements are void ab initio. X promises to put life in the dead wife of Y. You know it is physically impossible, but even then you want to enter into contract. A promises to bring two stars from the sky. It is impossible to perform the contract. You knew about the impossibility, but even then you are entering into contract. Foolish person. Both the promiser and promisee do not know about the impossibility. They are not aware of the impossibility. Acha? Do you remember the horse wala example? A agreed to sell a horse to B, but unknown to both the parties, the horse had already died. The horse was dead. Do you remember this example? So this is void on the grounds of mutual mistake. Mutual mistake means bilateral mistake. Mutual mistake means bilateral mistake. The contract is void, not possible to perform it. Where the promiser alone knows about the initial impossibility. Acha, promiser knows about the impossibility, but even then he entered into a contract. The contract is void because it is impossible, but the promiser knew about it, right? So the promiser will now compensate the promisee for any loss sustained by the promisee due to non-performance of the promise. See, you knew about the impossibility, but even then you are entering into contract. Like say, for example, A is a married Hindu. He's already married, but again, he promises to marry B. See, in our country, we don't promote polygamy. Polygamy means multiple marriages. We don't promote polygamy. Hindu culture, okay, basically Hindus. It may be allowed in Muslims, but that is a personal law. So Hindus, it again is a personal law. So we do not allow polygamy. Polygamy means multiple marriages. So A knew about the impossibility. He knew that he's married, he cannot promise to marry someone else. You knew about this. You knew it is impossible right from the beginning. But still you are making the promise. This contract, this contract is void ab initio. But you knew about it, right? Promisor knew about it. So promisor will now compensate the promisee. He broke the promise. Ma'am, what compensation? See, everybody knew that they were getting married. They also got engaged. Then A is saying, no, I'm already married. Now we know that he cannot marry B. Now B has already informed all her relatives. Marriage is now broken, or the engagement is broken. Her goodwill, reputation got affected. Feelings were hurt. They spent money on the engagement. We can recover all that from A. Okay. So what kind of compensation can be recovered in this case? The expenses incurred, loss of goodwill, feelings were hurt. So on these bases, we can claim compensation. All right. Next and very important, let us discuss the effects of supervening impossibility. Supervening impossibility means the contract was valid when entered, but later on, yes, later on, due to certain circumstances, it now becomes impossible to perform. Then the contract becomes void. The contract becomes void. Okay, it becomes void later. Why does it become void? Due to, you have to write in the exam, it becomes void due to supervening impossibility. You need to write this, you need to mention this. Supervening impossibility means impossibility which does not exist at the time of making the contract. It arises subsequently after the formation of the contract. The impossibility makes the contract void. Now, what are the grounds? This is very important. There are two lists which we are going to study. Okay, there are two lists. The first is specific grounds of supervening impossibility. And then we have the grounds on which the contract is not discharged due to supervening impossibility. Both the lists are very, very important for exam. After this, we will discuss the compiler questions. There you will realize that not here, but in breach of contract, you will realize many questions are asked on supervening impossibility. Now, let us discuss the specific grounds on which the contract is discharged due to supervening impossibility. The first one is destruction of subject matter. See, the thing for which we entered into contract, if that is destroyed, I don't want something else. I want that particular thing only. Like in case of specific goods, we are going to study in Sale of Goods Act. If the subject matter of the goods is destroyed, I don't want anything else. It's not possible to perform the contract. It becomes void. Like say, for example, X agreed to sell a crop of special corn. The word special is important over here. Why? I will tell you later. X agreed to sell a crop of special corn to Y. Now they have already entered into the agreement. But before he could deliver the corn, the crop was destroyed by a swarm of insects. The entire crop was destroyed due to a swarm of insects, like locusts. Now it was special corn. I had grown it specially for Y. We cannot procure it from somewhere else. See, if it was just regular corn, law says you can procure it from some other place. Yes, you can get it from some other place. It's just corn, no? So the contract will remain valid in that case. However, we are discussing about special corn which may not have any substitute, which is unique, which is grown for Y only. Because it is unique, it is special, it does not have any substitute. Now you will not get it from somewhere else. The contract becomes impossible to perform, hence the contract is void. A purchased tickets for a concert. But on the previous night of the concert, the entire hall is destroyed by fire, and it is not possible for us to procure another hall in that given time. See, if you want a hall of a particular capacity, it is not possible, no, that you will find this a similar hall in that area. You can't ask people to travel 50 kilometers just because there is an equally accommodating hall over there. We cannot make arrangements in such short notice. The contract is impossible to perform, it becomes void. I know what you are thinking. I know what you're thinking. Ma'am, what about the ticket money? Yes, what about the ticket money? You tell me, think and tell me, will he get a refund? Will we get a refund? The ones who have paid for it, will we get a refund? Under which section? Under section 65, restoration of benefit in case of a void contract. Yes, restoration of benefit. Do you remember this? Okay. So yes, restoration of benefit, section 65 will apply here. Since the contract has become void, you will get back your ticket money if paid. So restoration of benefit in case of void contract. Do you remember voidable was discussed under which section? 64. Restoration of benefit in case of voidable contract discussed under section 64. So the contract is discharged if the subject matter is destroyed after the formation of the contract without the fault of either parties. Ma'am, what if it is the fault of one party? The contract becomes void, but the party in fault will have to make compensation to the other party. Yes. Death or personal incapacity. See, death, personal incapacity, let's highlight this. Death or personal incapacity. See, death or personal incapacity does not make the contract void. The legal representative can perform it, or any other person can perform it. But what if the contract involves personal skill, personal consideration? Then what will happen? Then in case of death or personal incapacity, it cannot be performed by some other person. Then it becomes void. Please highlight this as important for case-based questions. Case-based questions. Students, if you are watching this lecture for the first time, we provide lectures for CA Foundation and CA Inter Law. So do visit my website capreetyagarwal.com for books, lectures, podcast and test series. In my lectures, we discuss the concept. We also discuss all the questions from my compiler. All these lectures are made specially for students who want to understand the concept in detail and want to have concept clarity so that they can answer any question in the exam. If you have Contract Act in whatever course that you are studying, you may be preparing for CA, CS or any other professional exam, these lectures will definitely help you. So do visit my website capreetyagarwal.com. My mobile number is also mentioned over there. You can get in touch with me for any guidance. Death or personal incapacity. Now the contract is discharged on the death or personal incapacity only if the performance of the contract depends on the personal skill or ability or personal involvement of that person. So under normal circumstance, okay, generally, you can write it over here. Generally, death or personal incapacity. Okay, generally death or personal incapacity will not make the contract void because it can be performed by the legal representative. However, in case of contracts involving personal skill, personal consideration, then yes, they become void due to death. In case of death or incapacity. Okay. So yes, the contract becomes void because if in case of death or incapacity, only for the contracts involving personal skill, personal consideration. In case a question is asked in the exam, 99% it will be on these two examples only. X promised to make a painting for Y. Y gave him an advance of rupees 20,000. I'm adding this. But X died before the painting was made. What will happen to the contract? The contract will become void. What will happen to the advance? The advance will be refunded. Under which section? Section 65. Okay, so these are the 2 points which you will write in your analysis part of the question. We also discuss questions during the lectures. Yes. X promised to sing at a concert but fell ill before the concert. Can we ask the assistant to go and sing at the concert? The contract involves personal skill, personal consideration. It cannot be performed by any other person. Contract becomes void. So over here also the contract becomes void. Now students, tell me, what if let's say Diler Mehndi. Okay, Diler Mehndi is a very famous singer, Punjabi singer, and he agrees to sing at a concert, but he fell ill. His brother Mika Singh was asked to sing at the concert, and everybody agreed, okay, like both are good entertainers. The concert managers also agreed. So then can he cancel the contract and treat it as void? No, you have accepted the performance by some other person, and then later on you cannot cancel the contract and claim compensation. Okay? That kind of variation is discussed in the compiler when we discuss. This is one of the questions which was asked in the exam. So in case of death or incapacity, generally the contract is not discharged due to supervening impossibility. However, if it involves personal skill, personal consideration, then definitely it is discharged. Declaration of war. See, in case of war, you cannot enter into contracts. But I didn't know that a war is going to be declared. So I entered into the contract. Now, we will analyze. Okay, we will analyze. Is the contract against public policy? Is the contract against public policy? If yes, then the contract is void. Sorry, it is dissolved. We'll say it is dissolved. And yes, it will become void. But if it is not against public policy, okay, it is not against public policy, then it is merely suspended and it will be revived after the war is over. The pending contracts at the time of declaration of war, they are either suspended or they are declared as void. So X of India agreed to export goods to Y of Bangladesh. They had entered into an agreement, but actually the goods were not exported. Pending. It means the goods were not actually exported. Afterwards, India declares a war. This is not against public policy. So it is merely suspended. It will be revived after the war is over. It will be revived after the war is over. Change of law. We entered into a contract, but later on, government imposed a ban. The contract becomes void. We had entered into a contract, government imposed a ban, agreement is void. The contract is discharged if the performance becomes impossible or unlawful. Okay, the performance has become impossible or unlawful due to change in the law after the formation of contract. X promises to export onions to Y. When they entered into a contract, that time everything was valid. Okay, so everything was valid. But before he could export, Government of India imposed a ban on export of onions. Now there is a ban, we cannot do anything. The agreement becomes void. This is very interesting. X agrees to sell trees of a forest. Agreement is valid. But later on, the Government of India, they acquired the forest and they said no selling of trees. Now the contract becomes void. It cannot be performed. The contract becomes void. Non-existence or non-occurrence of a particular state of things necessary for performance. Let us discuss one example of non-existence. Non-existence or non-occurrence, it's the same. I just want to give you one more example. X promised to marry Y. Agreement is valid. They got engaged also. Agreement is valid. But before marriage, X became lunatic. Now, do the same kind of things exist as they existed before he became a lunatic? No. The contract becomes void. Let us discuss one very interesting case law, Krell versus Henry. Now, it's a very interesting case. Henry wanted to view the coronation procession of the king. Coronation means the king was crowned and there was a procession. So he wanted to view the procession. So he wrote a letter to Mr. Krell, the owner of a hotel, that I wish to view the coronation procession of the king. Do you have a room which offers a direct view of the procession? Please let me know the charges. Okay, he wrote a letter. Mr. Krell wrote back that yes, we do have a room and the rent is 75 pounds per night. Okay, 75 pounds. He said, all right, I am enclosing 25 pounds as deposit. Remaining 50 pounds I will pay later. He said, all right. But the procession was cancelled due to the king's illness. Now H did not use the room. So he demanded back his 25 pounds. But Mr. K is saying that why should I refund that money to you? I booked that room for you. You did not visit. You did not use it. That is your problem. I will not return those 25 pounds. In fact, you pay the balance 50 pounds. What should we do? You tell me what should be the conclusion here. Did you understand the case? Yes. So H wrote a letter asking K if he had a room to view the coronation procession. He said yes. Then he wrote a letter enclosing 25 pounds and he said that I will pay 50 pounds later. I want to view the coronation. The coronation was cancelled. Now K is demanding the balance 50 pounds. Should he pay? Should H pay? Yes, ma'am, he should pay because K had booked the room for him. He did not give it to someone else, so he lost an opportunity. All right. Put yourself in this situation. You booked a hotel thinking that you would use it after your CA foundation exams are over. Okay. But the exams got postponed, so you could not visit that hotel. Now the owner is asking you to make the full payment. Will you pay? No, ma'am, it is not our fault. No, that the exams got postponed and we did not even use the room. Then why are you asking him to pay? Acha, so if it is your situation, then you are saying that yes, why we should not pay, but he should pay. Why? If he has not used the room, why should he pay for it? He is not obligated to pay. In fact, he is entitled to get a refund of 25 pounds. That is why nowadays terms and conditions are very clearly mentioned. That is why it is mentioned that this is a non-refundable deposit. Once paid will not be refunded. That is why these terms are very important to be mentioned. Otherwise, law will simply say that he has not used the product or service, then he is not obligated to pay for it. That is what law will say. That is why terms and conditions are very important in a contract. Let's do a variation here. Okay. What if H, he had told K that I want to view the coronation procession of the king and then I will sit in the evening and I will enjoy the view from here. One purpose of viewing the coronation procession could not be satisfied, but the other purpose can still be satisfied. You can stay in the room, enjoy the view. But ma'am, to enjoy that, he will not pay 75 pounds. All right, you may get some other, like free breakfast, or we will give you some refund, but you have to fulfill the contract. You have to pay whatever was agreed. Maybe, you will get some voucher or you'll get some discount on the next booking, something they may agree. one purpose could not be satisfied, but the other purpose could be satisfied, the contract in that case will remain valid. One more example, it is also a case law. Many passengers, I'll write it on a new page only. Many passengers, this will not be asked in the exam, it's just for our understanding. Many passengers, they booked a cruise, okay? It was a naval cruise. They said that we will show you the naval procession and afterwards we will take you on a dinner cruise. So many passengers booked the ticket, but the naval procession was cancelled. One purpose could not be satisfied, but the other purpose of the cruise, the dinner cruise, that could be satisfied. The contract remains valid. See, in this case, you may get some benefit, like, okay, naval procession was cancelled, we will give free drinks to everyone or one night stay, something of that sort, but the contract remains valid. Okay. So let us highlight the judgment over here. The contract was discharged. H was excused from paying the rent of the room as the procession which formed the very basis. See, that was the very purpose of us booking that room. If that purpose is not satisfied, I have no other use of that room. The concept of supervening impossibility is also discussed under the doctrine of frustration under English law. Doctrine of frustration. Contract is frustrated. It means the contract cannot be performed. There was no other purpose for me hiring that room. I want my money back. Yes, doctrine of frustration. What is the meaning of frustration? Frustration means that the situation which existed at the time of contract no longer exists. Okay, so the situation which is now and that at the time of contract, they are not the same. Therefore, the contract is frustrated. It's discharged. There are certain circumstances where the contract is not discharged due to supervening impossibility. There is some difficulty, but it is not impossible to perform the contract. Contract remains valid. It's difficult, but it's not impossible. Contract remains valid. Difficulty of performance. So these are circumstances where the contract is not discharged due to supervening impossibility. Contract remains valid. Okay, write down. Contract remains valid. But in spite of this, the parties are not performing their promise. If party or parties fail, I'll write party. If party fails to perform, then that amounts to breach of contract. The aggrieved party can claim damage. Okay, so in this case, the contract remains valid because it is difficult. It is not impossible. Contract remains valid. Even if the party fails to perform, then that amounts to breach of contract. Aggrieved party can claim damages. Difficulty of performance. See, it is difficult. It's not impossible. You can perform the promise. A contract is not discharged simply because it has become more difficult. Let us understand with the help of example. M agrees to supply coal to N. Okay, M agrees to supply coal to N. The mine from where he was going to extract the coal, government imposed a ban on extraction. Now M cannot extract coal from that mine. He is telling M, see, it is impossible to perform the contract. The government has imposed a ban on that mine. Array, government has imposed a ban on that mine. But you can procure the coal from some other mine, na? It's difficult. It's not impossible. Coal is coal. There is no speciality or special coal, no, that it becomes impossible to perform. The contract remains valid. Go get it from somewhere else. It's difficult. It's not impossible. It may be difficult to perform the contract, but it's not impossible. You are not discharged because coal is available in the open market and other mines also. If you don't have it, go get it from somewhere else. It's difficult. It's not impossible. Commercial impossibility. Commercial means if we perform this contract, the party will either suffer loss or profit will reduce. Okay, what is the meaning of commercial impossibility? If performed, party may either suffer loss or profit will reduce. Now let's say X is the owner of a stationery shop. He agreed to supply paper to Y at an agreed rate. Let's say they agreed at 500 rupees per rim, that pack which you get. But at the time of performance, the price increased to 550. So he is saying, impossible, impossible. I cannot give it to you for 500. I will give it to you for 550. Arey, we agreed for 500. If you perform and suffer loss of 50, that is your problem. Prices have increased, but that is your problem. Why should we suffer? I'll just explain with the help of a relatable example. You may feel that, ma'am, no, this is not right. If the price has increased, it is not the fault of X. But he agreed at 500, na? You have to give it at the contract price. You have agreed. Acha. Let's say that your mom always complains that you never bring your tiffin spoons back. You always lose. So she sent you to buy the spoons so that you spend your money, so you will remember to bring them back also. So you went to the shopkeeper and you asked him, uncle, how much for this spoon? He said 200 rupees for the entire packet. Take it. You said, all right, I will take the entire pack. Mom will also be happy. You went to pay at the cash counter. He said, no, beta, 220 rupees. You said, uncle, you said 200 rupees. I agreed to buy the entire pack. Now you're saying it is for 220. No, beta, this is the new price. By mistake, I gave you the old price. Will you pay him 220 or will you say, no, uncle, now give a discount? Of course, you will ask for a discount. Yes, so you will say, no, uncle, give me a discount of 20 rupees and now I will pay you only 200. See, uncle, you agreed. You told me 200, I agreed. Now this is our agreed price. Don't we argue? You are suffering loss. That is your problem. Why should we suffer? It's difficult. It's not impossible to perform your promise. The contract remains valid. Contract remains valid. Contract is not discharged simply on the grounds of commercial impossibility. Okay. Default of third party. Very interesting example. Default of third party. Z agreed to supply goods to X, a retailer, and retailer in turn promised to supply that to the buyer. Okay. Z agreed to supply goods to X, the retailer. X agreed to supply the goods to Y, the buyer. Now, due to some labor unrest, in Z factory, he is not able to supply the goods to the retailer. So he's saying, see, it is not possible. I can't supply. X is telling Y that even I can't supply. I am only not getting it from the manufacturer. Arey, is he the only manufacturer? There are others also in the market. Get it from them. It's difficult. It's not impossible. Contract remains valid. If you don't perform it, it amounts to breach of contract. Why can claim damages from you? Arey, you did not give me the goods. You were going to give it for 500. You refused to give it to me. I had to purchase it from someone else and I got it for 600 rupees. I paid 100 rupees extra. This 100 rupees can be claimed from X. These are nothing but damages arising due to breach of contract. So X will not be discharged. In fact, if he fails, he will be liable to pay damages to Y. And how are the damages calculated? Contract price was 500 rupees. Okay, contract price was 500 rupees. X failed to supply at 500, so we had to buy it from the market at 100 rupees. We ended up paying 600, we ended up paying 100 rupees more. We will recover it from X. It's difficult, it's not impossible, and you could have got it from some other person. Strikes, lockouts, and civil disturbances. The strike is generally initiated by the workers, labor, okay, workers. All right, your workers are on strike. Get the product made from some other workers, from some other factory. It's difficult, it's not impossible. No? It's not some very unique product made by only few people in the market. Get it made from somewhere else. Lockout, this is initiated by the employer himself. Lockout is basically when the factory is closed for some time just to teach the workers a lesson. These workers are playing very smart. Shut the factory for a month. When they don't get salary, when they don't get wages, then they will learn a lesson. Shut it down. So in this case, the employer is imposing the lockout. But the factory will start after a month or two. That time you make the product and give it there. Maybe some delay, but it's not impossible. Civil disturbances, there are two groups. They are fighting against each other. Yeah, but that will get over sometime. Then you perform the contract. It's difficult. It's not impossible. Contract is not discharged on the ground of strike by workers because you can get the work done from some other workman. Lockout is also started by the employer himself. Now it is started by you. You cannot cancel the contract. It's difficult. It's not impossible. X promises to supply goods to Y, but he fails due to strike in his factory. Contract remains valid. You can get it made from someone else, some other workers. It's difficult. It's not impossible. Under all these circumstances, the contract is difficult to perform, but it is not impossible. The contract remains valid. Even then, if the party fails to perform, it amounts to breach of contract. Aggrieved party can claim damages. So, students, here we discussed the types of impossibilities. Yes, types of impossibilities. Initial and supervening impossibility. Section number is important for exam. Then we discussed the grounds on which the contract is discharged on supervening impossibility. We also discussed grounds on which the contract is not discharged due to supervening impossibility. So students, this is how we discuss the concept in our lectures. Everything is covered in detail with the keywords, type of questions that are asked in the exam, many examples for every provision. After this, we will also discuss the questions in my regular lectures. So this is how we study law, and you will also study law like never before. So if you wish to purchase the lectures, do visit my website capreetyagarwal.com. If you have any query, my number is given in the description as well as on my website. In my next session, I will discuss the compiler questions. That is a part of my regular lectures. So the unit is now over. Guys, the unit is now over. It is time for you to revise unit 4A, 4B. Revise the entire unit. Attempt the compiler questions on your own. It is time to attempt the compiler questions. Revise the entire unit, unit 4A, 4B. Attempt the compiler. I had discussed. Yes, I'll discuss again with you. This is my compiler. Yes, so in my compiler, on the left hand margin, see, left hand column is blank for you. You have to write the pointers, the section number. Like say, for example, this question is based on section 43, joint promise. So section 43, joint promise. Then write the provisions, whatever you can remember. Everything will be written in point format. This is just for you to recall. What are the pointers? How will I frame the answer in the exam? So you will make a mental, you will make a note of all the provisions. This is also writing practice. You need not write the entire sentence, but at least by writing the pointers, you are making the notes for each and every question. So right, I will cover these 3 points. Then compare your answer with the model answer. Have you covered everything? No. If you leave out a point, write that in red. Okay, I missed these 2 points. Because you have written it in red, you will never forget it in exam. You will never forget it till exam. Yes. So this is provisions. Facts you need not write. Make a note of the points that you will cover in analysis. Make your own calculations. Then compare it with the model answer. What are the points that you have missed? Oh, I did not write this point. Make a note of it in red. Conclusion starts with therefore, hence, it is so concluded. This is how you will write the answer. You will divide it in 4 points, 4 parts. Provisions, first we write the provisions, then we write the facts of the case. This is writing the question in brief, analysis, and conclusion. So this is my compiler, and we have provided the answers. All the answers are in this format only. Provisions, facts, analysis, conclusion. Provisions, facts, analysis, conclusion. This is how you will write the answer in the exam. To make it easy for you, I have already done the hard work. I have already made the answer in the format that you have to write in the exam. Just learn this, and I'm telling you, students, all the questions in your paper will be from the compiler only. The compiler is a part of the regular lectures. You can also purchase it separately from my website, theapreetyagarwal.com. These questions will be discussed in the regular lectures. I will discuss each and every question in my lecture. I will also give you points as to what are the keywords, what should be written in your answer, the section numbers that are important, on which point they allocate maximum marks, how to frame the answer. Everything will be discussed in the lectures. You can attempt a few questions from here, send it to us for checking. We will definitely get in touch with you for writing practice and how to improve the quality of your answers. See students, law is a paper which will help you to make aggregate. Learning from here and there and relying just on free content may not help you always. So invest in quality lectures, and you will see, you will notice that when you get your result, you will notice the increase in your marks. So do get in touch with me, and I will see you in my next session.